Communications with the space station is fairly easy. There's typically no delay talking to the crew up there, but whenever NASA starts looking toward going to an asteroid or to Mars or any of the other far out destinations, communication gets a bit trickier. So there's a team here at the Johnson Space Center over in one of our buildings here that's been testing out different scenarios and creating an artificial communications delay that is sometimes several seconds, sometimes several minutes, trying to talk with the crew and figuring out exactly how all of that is going to work. We've got a live report now from NASA Public Affairs Officer Brandy Dean, who is there working with that team. Brandy, how are things going?
Hi, thanks, Josh. We are, as you said, here in Building 220 at Johnson Space Center, where it's currently the home of the Autonomous Mission Operations mission. That is similar to NEMO that you heard about earlier, one of the ways we simulate, in this case, a mission to an asteroid. And here with us to tell us about it today, we've got Jeff Malden, who is the simulation supervisor. He's been the one putting in all the problems for the crew inside the deep space habitat here behind us to deal with. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us a little bit about what Autonomous Mission Operations is, what that means, why we here.
Sure thing. Autonomous Mission Operations is all about a testing environment to try to test the effective time delay on a mission, and it's the interaction between crew and the flight control team here on the ground. And so what we've set up is the dish behind us, the deep space habitat, serves as our vehicle. And the crew's on board there, and we have in our mission control center here on site, we have a full flight control team of certified flight controllers that are working with the crew to execute a timeline. And so what we set up is this timeline to try to increase the interaction between the crew and the ground and vice versa, where activities need to check back and forth. There's data being transferred back and forth, much like we do today on the space station and we did before on the shuttle as well. We're trying to exercise how that data transfer and how those communications get affected as you increase the time delay, and what kind of things can we do to fix it? What kind of tools can we put in place to help us with maintaining situational awareness on the ground of where the crew is? It's a key piece of being in flight control, is knowing exactly what's going on and being able to get ahead of it so that you can provide information to the crew in a timely manner or to address issues that occur on the vehicle. And likewise, the crew to know what the flight control team has for them in terms of plan changes or actions in recovery situations. If we increase the time delay, it makes that very difficult to transfer that information in a timely manner. And so what we're trying to do is we're increasing our time delay from as little as 5 seconds, which is similar to kind of a near Earth kind of situation, up to maybe the moon. And then as you go to 50 seconds or even as far as 300-second delay or 5 minutes, then that's going to be a 10-minute round trip for a conversation to happen, at least. And so it can make things quite difficult.
So NASA wants to go further out into space, but that means the further you go, the longer it takes, not only for us to get there, but also for communication from the ground to get there, right?
Right. Exploration is going to be more than just designing the vehicle. It's going to be about designing and helping the flight control teams and the crews to be able to handle the situations and environments they're going to be in. So there's the vehicle design itself, which is being worked by a whole group of people now. But there's also the piece of it that we're working on here is to try to develop the ideas and the techniques to be able to fly those kinds of missions. And we need to do our homework now here on the ground before we get there. And so any mission, doesn't matter if it's this deep space habitat or if it's any other vehicle that would go beyond Earth orbit, beyond the moon, to an asteroid, to Mars, wherever it is that we want to go, is going to have to overcome these kind of challenges. And so we're starting to try to figure that out with a real flight control team, with real crew members here, with experience in this kind of stuff. We've got a blended team of flight controllers, established flight controllers with experience on shuttle missions, ISS mission today. They bring all that experience to the table. They've all been trained to be outstanding flight controllers, and they all contain the skill sets that's required to do this job. But what we're testing now is not so much that, it's more the ability to apply those in a case where you don't have the same level of instant communication with the crew like we have today. All of our techniques and all of our experience base in the past has always been on near Earth or as far out as the moon. We've never gone further than that, and we want to go further. The mission starts here.
And you come from a space station background, right?
That's correct. I'm a flight controller for the space station and attitude control specialist.
Okay, great. The time delay for the space station is just fractions of a second, right? Not much at all.
Right. In terms of all the delays through the network and back up and down, it would be something similar to like a 1 second delay.
Okay.
And so it's not that big of a deal for us. We're able to have communications like we're having now with the crew, and the Capcom for the station handles that for us, and we're able to get information up and down quickly. And then also we have the ability to get telemetry from the station vehicle on the ground, so we're able to see how the station is performing, how our specific subsystem, for example, me with attitude control, I'm able to see what the current orientation of the vehicle is, how much propellant we're using, how if we're doing maneuvers or anything like that.
But when we go further out, the crew is going to have a lot of this responsibility.
Right. Some of the investigation here is how to transfer some of that responsibility back over to the crew, and yet still maintain such a complex vehicle like the ISS is. Right now, it takes the full flight control team to really operate the crew, to give them the time to do the other things that they need to do on board the station, like the science and the maintenance kind of tasks that they do. So a lot of the systems of the ISS are actually controlled from the ground, and so we do a lot of commanding back and forth to the ISS on a daily basis. Now, when we get into a case like this, where we're at 5 minutes for our commanding to even reach the vehicle, well, it's very difficult to maintain a tight grip of what you're doing when you're at that kind of delay. So some of those activities may need to be transferred back over to a crew member. And what the tool sets that we deploy in cases like there are simulations here, we seek to try to make that job a little bit easier for the crew. The crew's got a ton of things to do, and they've got a busy timeline to execute. It's difficult for them to execute that at a specialist level like we do at the ISS. And so what we try to do is provide additional data insight that helps to break down the system a little bit and helps to help them recognize issues, performance problems, and then also just to execute a nominal procedure. To make sure that they aren't risk of making any mistakes, so that way if a mistake occurs, it's something they're easy to fix and things like that. So it's all to make the job smoother, to make it easier, to make it more enjoyable when you're there. For the crew members on that long flight, I mean, you don't want to have to give them so much overhead. So what we're trying to do is develop the kinds of tool sets and test them here to see how they affect both the flight control team but also the crew.
Do you think you're learning a lot so far?
I think we're learning a ton. We've learned a lot about how voice communication needs to vary, and especially at the longer time delays. We've seen a lot of cases where a call would go up from one side, and then by the time it gets to the other side, they've already called something back to us, and so the conversation becomes out of sync. It's like you're going to tell them to do something, their call is coming back the other way, but you haven't heard it yet, telling you they've already started that, and so you kind of are out of sync and you're talking past each other. We've implemented some tool changes, and things as simple as chat rooms with texting, much like what we use here today on the ground. Over a delay, but it allows that message to remain there. You can go back and read it again. You can even see the context of the message, because the previous question would have been up earlier in the chat window as an example for alternatives to voice. And we're also looking at other data transfer kind of things as well. So it's definitely a challenge, but we've been learning a lot, both sides.